Hi guys, this is Giorgio from SC2 News, and this is episode 8 of In the Spotlight, where we talk to industry insiders, professional players, and lots of other interesting StarCraft 2 personalities. My guest today is no other than IronManSC, whose surname I actually misspelled, unfortunately. So it's Rinker, Travis Rinker. You might know him for creating the map Ohana, which is in the ladder pool at the moment and part of a lot of major tournaments. So Travis, how are you today?
I'm doing all right.
All right. So before we talk a little bit about StarCraft, the recent Red Bull Battlegrounds, and map making in general, tell us a little bit about Ohana, because that's what most people know you for. Where did you get the inspiration from for making this map?
Well, I think we all remember when Belcher Beach came out, and that was one of the best looking maps you could ever see. Like even still today, like the summer version is still really cool. And I remember for a long time I really wanted to create one, but I didn't quite know how to make a beach map. So when I saw LS Prime make Belcher Beach, the summer version, I was like, I am so jealous and I want to do something like that, but I put it off for a little while. And then I finally just stepped out and said, you know what, I want to create a beach map. LS Prime showed that it's possible, and I'm going to do it. And so that's when I came out with Ohana. But the thing is, like, when you come up with a beach map, you think the obvious. It's like, well, it's green, it's lush, and it's very sandy and things like that. But I wanted to try and do a different kind of a beach map. I wanted to do something that was more dry and rocky and rugged and things like that. So that's basically how I started out with it.
All right. So you said, like, aesthetics wise, you already said what your goals were for Ohana. Did you have anything in mind gameplay wise? Did you want to create a certain map for a certain gameplay?
That's a really hard one, because it's like, a beach map is not a bunch of cliffs and things like that. It's a beach, and beaches are generally very flat, and so you have to think like, well, how do you come up with a gameplay design? Like Cloud Kingdom, for example, made by Super OU Man, he had a very nice game play style set up with it for encouraging mech. It goes uphill and then it goes downhill, it goes uphill. Like, you can see that gameplay just unfold just by looking at it. Whereas a map like Ohana, it's very, very flat. But I had to try and work around that and see, like, well, how do I, like, what kind of play style am I aiming for on this kind of a map? And that's where I really had to try and work around it. I didn't really think too much on that. It was a very difficult process.
Mm-hmm.
It took about 7 months to try and determine, like, well, how is this map going to play out? So, for a while, I actually thought that the map was, like, way too flat. I felt like it was just not very diverse in its terrain, but it proved me wrong. So.
Mm-hmm. One question that just came up in chat was, where did that name come from? Someone said that it might be a reference to Omaha Beach.
Well, okay. I was on the Planetary Workshop, which is another map making team, when I made Ohana. And I'm very bad at picking out map names. So I actually went to my team at the time and I said, hey, can you guys help me pick a name for this? Because I was going on Google and typing in, like, names of beaches and things like that. And I had no idea what to name it. And apparently one of my teammates at the time, he's like, why don't you just name it Ohana? And I was like, like, that sounds cool. It sounds kind of Hawaiian, And it is. And I looked it up, and the pictures of Ohana on Google Images looked quite nice compared to what I made on the editor. So I thought, you know what, Ohana's a pretty good name. So that's where I came up with it.
All right, cool. And you also you talked a little bit about how long it took you. You said 7 months. During that time, what was the biggest problem you encountered with this map? You already said, you had to make it quite flat because that's, what a beach is like. What was the biggest problem you encountered feature-wise, map feature-wise, and maybe just in general?
Wow, that's hard. Because Ohana I didn't work on it for 7 months. It just took me about 7 months to refine it and make it what it is today. If any of you guys remember back in the Team Liquid map contest, the really, really first version of Ohana, where like every base is on high ground, that was its original version, and the reason it became what it is today is because NASL wanted it, and they said, we have to make this more playable on a tournament standpoint. And so they actually drew it out for me. They said, okay, we want to move this main up here a little bit more, and we want to push this fourth back up a little bit as well as a third, and things like that. And so they gave me this drawing. They took my overview and they said, and they drew over it, and they said, can you do this? And I said, all right, I'll try it. So I streamed it for about 2 or 3 days, and I pulled through with it and made it to what it is right now. Except when I did finish it, it had the rivers. It was the RE version, not the LE version. The RE version has the rivers that go through it, and everyone just really did that. I mean, they just dug it like crazy. They loved the rivers. They loved the way it looked and the feel of it. It really felt like a beach map, and so that worked out quite well for NASL. And then Blizzard came up to me. They emailed me and they said, well, we want to add it to ladder, but there's some problems. The water is going to cause some performance issues. And so I thought, you're kidding me, right? And they go, no, like, not only does it cause performance issues, but it has to be playable for ladder, because on ladder there's a whole range of computers that need to be able to handle it on any type of graphics setting. And they said it would also confuse the newer players, and that, oh, well, you can't build on the rivers, but you think you can, and it just kind of fools you. And so they said, you got to get rid of the water. The terrain has to be even from level to level. It can't go like this all over. It has to be flat. And so I said, well, all right. And believe me, I know a lot of you guys like those rivers. I love them too. I really tried to keep them, but you got to do what you got to do. So those were really the main differences right there that I had to do. First, the refining of the layout, and then from there I had to work on the performance. Okay,
that's actually that kind of hints to a question I was gonna ask a little bit later. The whole thing about Blizzard contacting you guys as map makers. So from what you told me, they actually contacted you and asked you to make some changes instead of taking it and then refining it themselves. I've heard from Diamond and lots of people that a lot of tournaments seem to do that. They take a map they like, refine it in the way they like, without even contacting the map maker. How exactly does it work with Blizzard? Did they then take your map that you changed and put it into ladder, or did they make more changes?
Blizzard was actually very, very good with handling it. We've all heard of MLG removing the islands on Metropolis without LS Prime even knowing about it. He didn't even give him permission to do it. That's just bad, right? Blizzard, on the other hand, is actually very professional about it. They emailed me and they said, okay, we like your map. Can we have the file? We really like the direction that you're taking the Ohana RE version for NASL. And I said, yeah, sure. I forwarded them the file, and they were looking at it, and they said, okay, we had fun play testing it, and these are the issues that we have. And so then they would email me back and say, hey, can you fix this? Can you fix this? And then near the end, they said that they retextured it. And then they emailed me and said, our art team did some changes to the textures, and we were wondering if you were okay with it. If not, we're going to have to delay this even longer for a season. And so I said, yeah, sure, And then they would forward me the file back and said, okay, this is your updated version. You can use this for tournaments and all that kind of stuff. So Blizzard was like super professional about it. I would ask him a question and be like, hey, why can't I have rivers in it? Or why can't I have a neutral depot in it? And then he would say, let me ask the team, the map team. And he would ask them and then forward me their answer. It was just a very, very close communication. So I got to give a lot of credit to Blizzard on that. Everything that they did was moderated, and everything that they did was professional. And they contacted me with every little change they did. So.
All right. That's actually like I'm really surprised by this. I always assumed it was similar, with Blizzard as it is with the tournaments at the moment. So you made this map. You won a map contest with this map, right? That was with Ohana.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. How confident were you that this map has everything, for it to make it into a tournament pool? Did you know when you were pretty much done with it, when you did a lot of refinement, okay, this is going to be a map that will be in the GSL, for example?
Man, when you make a map, you don't expect it to go anywhere. I mean, I can go crazy on map exposure and what we have to deal with. But I tell you, I remember making it in the editor, and I thought to myself, like, this is going to be a cool map, but I just had no idea that it was going to be in every major tournament. And I was confident that I could make the map look good and really pretty and playable, but you never have that confidence and that assurance that it's actually going to go anywhere. So that was basically where I was resting for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. All right. So maybe picking up with that a little bit, it was picked up, for example, by the Red Bull Battlegrounds this weekend, a tournament that I personally really, really enjoyed. I didn't really know what to expect from it because it was a new tournament. But one thing I noticed, they showed Ohana. They always show the map statistics at the beginning, and they didn't show the right ones. And I saw you commenting in chat. I'm putting this up on screen right now. You commenting, that they didn't use the right stats. What did you think about that? Do you ever get contacted by tournament organizers asking you for current stats, anything like that?
Oh man, the screenshot. I was a little upset there. Basically, I recently found out that they were using Korean-only statistics, not international, and so I wanted them to use the international. And I saw it, and the casters, they just made it look bad overall. They're like, oh yeah, Protoss is really good against Terran on this map, where I would look at the international stats and it would be 36-36 in the matchup, and I'm just like, you're kidding me. Like, use the right ones. You guys are making this map look more new than it already is. The map's been around for more than half a year, and it's in almost every single tournament right now. They're making it look like, oh yeah, this map is brand new, brand spanking new. And they take the stats and they're like, oh yeah, it's really Protoss favored, where it's not, like, internationally. So I don't know, it just kind of bugged me because a lot of people got stirred up about it, in the chat and everything like that. And I know that Twitch chats are not the place you want to be, but it's I don't know, it just kind of bugged me. It's like, I'm just one of those guys that are like, come on, just make everything look good, use the right information. This map is more common than you think, it's better than you think. So it just kind of bugged me a little bit. Mm-hmm. But, what can you do?
Yeah. And what did you think about the games played on Ohana? Was it like, I don't know, this is a stupid question, I think, because as you said, you can't really imagine a gameplay before, but the games you saw, were they kind of what you maybe had in mind when you created it?
Well, every map maker has to realize that when you first make a map and it first gets into some big tournament, a lot of Koreans, they tend to cheese the map. They do a lot of proxies and one base all-ins and things like that because they don't know the map. But as time goes on, you start seeing those big macro games, and Ohana has surprisingly produced some interesting games. I don't know if anyone out there watches NASL, but there was a show one time where Rotterdam was casting with Mr. Bitter, and he said, "Man, what is it about Ohana and ZVP?" And that's a good impression. Basically, there's something weird about the dynamic of the map, with the circular center, the way you can go up to your fourth and then through the center and, into his fourth, like just the way it worked, the flow of the map. It was just, it produced some very dynamic games, and you could sit back on 3 bases and macro up, but then anything past that, you have to work for it. You have to constantly fight over your fourth or your fifth or both of those. And then you have a watchtower in the center, which means if you go there, now you have a choice to branch off, or you can go here, you can go there. And so it's just it turned out to be a very dynamic map, and it's produced a lot of interesting games on it. So I'm actually really happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can actually, like, from a personal perspective, I can really agree with that. I mean, I'm a diamond player in EU, so I'm nowhere near the top. But it's first of all one of my favorite maps in the ladder pool, and also I think I played the craziest games on that map. For example, like my longest game ever played, it's in 1 hour 52-minute game. Pretty crazy. So it's definitely very dynamic, especially after you secured 3 bases. Okay.
Yeah, you showed me that replay. At the end, I was like, "Oh my gosh, dude, those feedbacks!"
Yeah, they saved.
Those are crazy.
Yeah, they saved me. I'll ask a question from the chat. Iron Man, do you think that StarCraft 2 map making will play as much of a role in balance as it did in Brood War?
Oh man, map making in Brood War was like over the top popular. Like maps in Brood War were everything. Map makers were getting paid in Brood War. In StarCraft 2, the game is still young. We still got 2 more expansions that have to come out, so who knows what new features we're going to get for map making, and as far as balance that we can implement in maps. It's just too early to tell right now, but I know that eventually maps are going to mean so much more within StarCraft 2. Just right now, the main focus is getting some Brood War professionals into the game. We're focusing on new expansions. We're focusing on metagame and balance and things like that. So map making isn't really at its peak right now. It's starting to take a step forward. Foreign maps are becoming better and more popular and more accepted inside of esports. So we're definitely on the right track. I just think that we just have to wait quite a while still, but I think it will definitely come to that point.
Alright, so let's move on and talk a little bit about Red Bull Battlegrounds. We still have heavy stuff to cover, map making and the current scene, all this sort of stuff, but I think Red Bull Battlegrounds really was fun. What did you think of the event? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? How much did you watch of it?
Okay, I got two views on this. One, from a spectator point,
yeah,
day 1 was horrible. Now, if anyone else watched it, the audio was just bad. I haven't heard bad audio like that for a very long time. The streams were getting mixed up. You would hear day 9 stream while you were watching the Red Bull stream and everything like that. It was just really bad. People were constantly saying like, "Oh, it's the NASL sound guy" and all that kind of stuff, but I got over it eventually. But I would say that the games were so awesome. There were so many good series and matchups in that tournament, and I really enjoyed that a lot. Every match was just like going 3 games and just really long macro games. It was just really cool. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, me too actually. Like I think, the tournament organizers, schedule-wise, I'm not sure 2.5 hours really is enough that they scheduled for the groups. But anyway, like I don't think they expected that many games that were so long, so epic. It did reflect on the fact that in the end the tournament did run really late, and Husky, for example, did solo casting until I think 2 a.m. or something like that. It's definitely quite a crazy day.
Yeah.
Who did you cheer for in the tournament? Did you have any player you wanted to win?
Well, as a Zerg player, I was going for Stefano. I mean, that guy is literally like, he's like a Korean in a non-Korean body. Like, the guy is just the hope of all foreign players right now. And to see him get third place is pretty awesome, but, you know, to see him fall to MC like that series was so amazing. I was just like, it was a nail-biting series. You know, Stefano would take the series 2-1, and all of a sudden MC would come back, and all of a sudden, like, no, it's game 5, and oh man, you know, you got to that point in that last game where it's like, shoot, he lost. I can see it, you know. But it was really cool. Bomber is becoming more entertaining to watch, I would say. MC is the boss toss, just how you normally would see him. But I was really going for Stefano, personally. So.
Yeah, I remember watching that series. I was actually cheering for MC because I'm a Protoss player. And I actually thought MC was out after the 2-1 for Stefano. That comeback in the end was quite crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe moving on from Red Bull Battlegrounds into you know, your area, into map making. How much time does it take you know, to create a map? You said earlier, you know, with all the testing for Ohana, you took about 7 months. What's the general kind of time frame for a map?
Well, it depends on a couple things. How long you spend on it each day, and what your ultimate goal with the map is, how big the map is. You know, it can depend on what your theme is. If you want to make a beach map, you're going to need a lot of trees and rocks, or if you want to create a city map, you're going to need a lot of doodads for that. You know, it depends on a lot of factors, but I would say on average it would take roughly 30 to 50 hours to create the map itself, and several months to refine if it's really going to be a popular map.
Mm-hmm.
So that's average, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And how important is, for example, the Team Liquid community or community feedback in general for this refinement process? I know you guys always post your maps on Team Liquid, and then you get a lot of feedback from people. Do you have like a regular set of people who test the maps for you, or do you really depend on that community feedback?
It's a little bit of both. For me personally, on the North American server, there's a clan called Clan RH, Relentless Heroes, and they've helped test Ohana for quite a while, and I gave them a bunch of gratitude for that. It's actually really, really hard to find people to test your maps. We have to, you know, we have to go into Battlement and spam the channels, which doesn't sound nice, but it's the only thing we can do at the moment. You know, we post these maps on Team Liquid, and people will comment and say like, oh yeah, this is a cool map, I'm going to test it out, and then you never hear that person again. You know, and it's like, well, you said you were going to test this, I want to know what you thought, you know. So, I mean, if I were to test a map right now for a week straight, I would probably get around 10 games in 1 week. That's it. I mean, because people are impatient when they have to wait in the lobby for me to find them an opponent, or, you know, they'll play one test game and then they'll do an all-in, and it's like, this is dumb, you know. So getting the testers it's a little bit of a rough time. It's probably one of the most frustrating things as a map maker, so you take what you get.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. I didn't expect it to be so few people testing the maps.
Yeah.
So when it comes to map making, you told me earlier, you guys pretty much, you create maps, you know, because it's a passion, it's something you do, and you pretty much never get contacted by a tournament, for example, saying, hey guys, I want a map, I want it to be a beach map, etc. I want these and that, you know, those features. Isn't it really hard to always just create into the blue and then hope something will happen with the map?
Not quite sure what you're asking.
Okay, I'm maybe let's put it this way. Would you like tournament organizers, for example, to contact you and asking you to create a map for them, rather than creating a lot of maps and then hoping that maybe one will make it?
That's every map maker's dream right there. To have a tournament talk to you and say, hey, we would like you to create this map. Although that's kind of pressuring at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it's like, oh shoot, like, well, what kind of stuff do you want in the map? And then we have a time frame in that case. That's a little hard. 100% of the time it's been, we make a map and we just hope that someone will take it. When I was back on TPW, like last year, we created an entire map pool. We had about 8 maps, 7, 8, 9 maps. And we contacted like 15 different tournaments, and only one responded, and that was NASL. So it's very difficult. And when you're on a team like ESV, you have ESV Diamond, who goes to these events and he talks to tournament organizers, and he says, hey, we got all these cool maps, and things like that, and he'll get them promoted, and he'll run the ESV Korean Weekly, and he'll put new maps in there that will get Korean testing on it and things like that. So if I had to pick one, I'm happy with the way ESV is being run right now and with the way exposure is for maps, but I would most definitely like it if tournaments could almost hire map makers in a way and say, hey, we want a map this big, we would like this theme, we want this many bases, here's a basic drawing of what we would like. Something like that would be pretty cool.
I'm gonna take a viewer question now from Arndt Faster. He asks, with the plethora of tournaments going on, it feels like we're always seeing the same map pool with very little variation. Why do you think that is? Do we just need more map makers?
I don't think there's too few map makers. It's just tournaments are very scared of having these new maps into the map pool. Why? Because you have to think about the players. These players, they don't play for fun, they play for money. And if they get shoved or forced into playing a new map, that could cost them money if they don't know how to play the map. And so you don't want to do that. And I can understand that from a business perspective. You don't want to cost the player money. It's like throwing Stefano on a brand new map and then he can't play it out the way he would like to, and then he loses. It's like not the road you want to go down. I think we have plenty of map makers. It's just maps in general, there's no exposure. And that's the hardest thing for map making. That's why a lot of people give up after making a map or two, because they can't do anything with it. They publish it and then they can't get people to test it. They can't get people to notice them, and it's like, well, what do you do? And you get those hardcore mappers that stick around, like ESV and Crux and TPW, and we continue to churn out those maps. But tournaments have been making a nice clutch hit lately. Like DreamHack, they came up to us and said, hey, we want to use some new maps. Can you supply us with some of those and things like that? So I think tournaments are making a big step in accepting some new maps lately, but I don't know. I think it goes back to what I said earlier. It's just too early to tell, what these tournaments are going to do. The fact that, GSL would take new maps and all these other tournaments adopting a new map or two, we're definitely on the right track. So, we can't come out with a new map every week. So, you might get 1 or 2 per month. But before it even goes on to the big scene, it has to have a lot of testing done. So right now it's a little too early to tell, but I think we're definitely on the right track with a more diverse map pool.
All right, cool. Another viewer question following up with that is there a map out there right now that's not used in tournaments yet, that's kind of unknown, that we all should try out, in your opinion?
Is there a map out there right now that's not in tournament play?
Yeah,
I would like to test.
Yeah, a new map, an unknown map that we should all try out. Like, do you have a favorite map right now that's not featured yet in any tournament?
well, there is my map, my recent 4-player map, which is my first 4-player map. That I haven't tested that in at least 3 days or so. You could test that out. It's called K-Daria, which I'll put it in the chat. There we go. Other than that, it's like, well, if you want to test out ESV maps, go on Battle.net and go to your custom game section and type in ESV, and then you'll see all of our maps come up. Just check it out. You don't have to go crazy with testing. Just if you want to try them out, just go ahead. You know, drop us some feedback on our team thread on, you know, Team Liquid or something like that. So yeah, if you want to check out my 4-player map, K-Daria, it's actually in the StarCraft 2 custom map section. It's on the front page somewhere. So, you know, so yeah.
Cool.
Not much to really say about that.
Yeah. Coming back to K-Daria, we talked a little bit about. I know you are a host of a show. It's called Mappers. That's actually a really cool show. I saw it the first time last week. It's 3 mappers usually and the host Nursky, I think, and you guys talk about maps and all this sort of stuff. And I asked you a question, you know, about 4-player maps and cross spawns, always forced, and this sort of stuff. Because personally, I really like 4-player maps where you can have all spawning locations enabled. Folon from Team Liquid asked a question related to that. And he said, you know, are we at the point where we can bring those maps back? He actually says, do you think 4-player maps will ever get rid of needing cross spawns? And is it a goal of yours?
We had a discussion on this, you know, about the cross spawn and everything like that. It's, you know, when you force a cross spawn on a 4-player map, we just look at it and say, well, you might as well just play a 2-player map. That's basically what it comes down to. All spawns enabled, that's debatable. Depends on the map size and where the main and natural is. If you look at Whirlwind, the new GSTL map, or Tal'Darim Altar, you know, those are positioned in a way where all spawns can be enabled. Whereas Antigua Shipyard, or even my own map, K-Daria, it's rotational, and therefore, you know, therefore it's probably not going to work too bad or too good, you know. So, you know, we actually got a question. People were like, well, this Overlord increase, the speed, you know, will that make it better just to enable it, because then you can scout more? It's like, well, okay, Terran and Protoss can still only scout one area at a time, so it doesn't make any difference, you know. So no, these buff changes to Zerg and, you know, the Overlord and things like that, and a faster observer, it doesn't do anything. So you know, it doesn't make a whole lot of a difference. It just really depends on the proportions of the map. So that's really what it comes down to.
So from 4-player maps, maybe let's move into something that we haven't seen a lot, unfortunately, in my opinion, and that's 3-player maps. Do 3-player maps have a future, in your opinion?
In where?
in tournament play, so highest level tournament play.
2-player maps?
3-player maps, I'm sorry.
Oh, 3-player maps. Oh man, 3-player maps, those are incredibly hard to make.
Why is that?
Because there's nothing in the editor that helps with 3-player proportions. You have to literally do the math and measure it yourself. You know, some guys actually have to draw it out and then import that picture in the editor and then draw over it in the editor with terrain and things like that. So it's a very difficult process. 3-player maps are... The problem with 3-player maps is that they create a ton of airspace in between the mains. And that's not too big of a problem, but, you know, you gotta... I don't know. I mean, 3-player maps are really hard. I don't have too much to say about 3-player maps because we don't really do them. I just know that they're not very popular right now. And I think it was Zelnaga Fortress that was a 3-player map, and that actually got removed for balance reasons, I think. So there's really not a whole lot of demand right now for 3-player maps, so it's just something that we've kind of brushed under the carpet right now.
And how much, like, when you guys create maps, you are a part of the ESV map making team. There's the Planetary Workshop out there. There's other teams like Crooks, etc. How much cooperation is there between you guys? Are you rivals, or are you working together, for example, between the teams?
We're rivals on Team Liquid and in map competitions, but we actually have a Skype channel for all of us to just gather and, you know, talk about maps, and we troll each other and things like that. So, you know, we're kind of a family on the inside, you know, of the process. But, you know, when you go out there and make a map, we comment on each other's map. We don't just work with just ESV, we work with TPW as well. And we say, hey, you know, this is what your map could be like. This is my idea for this map. And, you know, so there's definitely a lot of collaboration, which is really great. You know, it's like professional players of StarCraft. You know, they fight each other, they're rivals, but after the game, they laugh with each other, they shake hands. You know, that's just how it is, and it's like that with map making.
And in the creation process and in the testing process, how much do you guys cooperate? Do you like look at each other's maps, share the file even, or do you just, you know, talk about it and bounce ideas?
We rarely do test each other's maps. We just talk about it, and we'll take a screenshot of their map, and then we'll draw over and say, hey, you know, maybe you should try this. Or, you know, we'll just use map making perspective and say, oh yeah, you know, this the choke around the third, it looks a little hard for Zerg. Maybe you should widen that a little bit. And we actually do a lot of that before we even post the maps on Team Liquid. So, you know, all the maps that we release on Team Liquid, I would say that they're definitely quality. You know, but that's where we have to get player feedback. And that's why, you know, maps don't always appear as good to players as we might think they are. And so, yeah, it's mostly just a lot of collaboration with, you know, map analysis and things like that.
And what's the current hot topic between you guys? Is there some issue that's really bugging you at the moment, or something you want to change? Something you think is really good in at the moment?
The hot topic for the map editor?
Yeah, for the mappers, because like we rarely actually get to see your point of view, you know what I mean? We play your maps, and that's pretty much all we really know about you guys. So, like, a little bit of insight into your perspective on the current scene, on the current maps. Like, what's important from your perspective at the moment?
Well, okay. We create maps for fun. We don't even get paid for it. We would like to eventually, but it doesn't concern us. It's not on our mind. We just make it for fun because we have a mind to be creative. And one of the things that we really, really pay attention to is the aesthetics. Making maps look really, really pretty. We love it. And actually, if you go to the map section, the custom map section on Team Liquid, you'll find a thread called the map art thread. There's 159 replies. If you guys just go there and look through it, you will be amazed with what we can come up with in the editor. And we love it. We love designing something that is ours. It's not like a business where it's saying, okay, we want you to design it this way. It's ours, you know? And we can look at it and say, I want to design it this way. This is how I want it, and things like that. So, and it's our work of art too. No one told us how to do it or anything like that. It's ours. And that's one of the greatest things about map making, is that you can really show what you're made of. And so that's something that we really focus on a lot.
And do you guys feel like you get the appreciation you should get from the community, or do you think you guys are a bit too far in the background, if you know what I mean? You do all this work behind the scenes. People play your maps. The maps change, the meta game at the moment. The maps change the way we perceive StarCraft. Do you get enough appreciation for that in a way?
One of the most common comments we get is, "Oh, this map looks really pretty." that's a lot of what we get. Or, "Oh yeah, nice map." Like, "Oh, congrats on such a good map." Or, "Oh, this is really nice." Like, that's basically the appreciation we get, And like when Ohana, for example, that started getting invited in a lot of tournaments. It's like people are like, "Oh, congrats," and it's like, that's it, I mean, we don't care about getting anything more than that. It's just, that's basically what it is. And from our standpoint, it's like, I'm really happy that my map got accepted and that people seem to be enjoying it. So, and then there's those times when someone is really going to try and troll your map, and they'll start talking about how horrible it is. And in your mind, it's like, I created something pretty and you're going to like it. You kind of have like that mentality, like, how could you? I spent so much time on it. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically our level of appreciation.
Yeah. I was asking this question because, the most vocal comments are always the ones about, this map is not so balanced. Even from the professional players, you more often hear them talking about maps they don't like. Reasons for why they veto maps instead of reasons for why they choose a certain map and this sort of stuff. I think there should be a shift in how these maps are perceived and the effort that goes into these maps. A question from Team Liquid. Someone, I know this guy is really he's into graphics arts and all this sort of stuff, and he asks, I was actually wondering how into the graphics and aesthetics side of things map creators get. I understand it's relatively important, but how much so? Do you guys go strictly for balanced maps before anything else? So he pretty much wants to create, maybe tile sets, little graphics, things like signs, all this sort of stuff. How important is that to you?
Well, there is a step process to how we approach new maps. We love aesthetics and we can't wait to do it, but we put that aside completely until we get down the layout. We want to make sure that the layout is playable. Some of us are very biased toward our own race. I play only Zerg and I rarely play Terran. But you know what? You have to play a little bit of everything to really understand the metagame. That's the other thing too. If you want to get into maps, you need to keep up with the metagame. You have to watch a lot of tournaments, you have to watch a lot of replays, you have to see what the balance talk is all about and what it revolves around. You have to understand, what's good for each race and what's bad for each race, and then you have to put it all into a map. And when you first make a map, you have to work on the layout. If the layout doesn't work, then making it look pretty is absolutely pointless and a waste of time. So most definitely we are very, very, very concerned about the balance when we first start creating a map, and it's the first thing that we finish before we go from there. So, and there's a lot of things you have to take into account too. Like, I've had people come up to me and they're like, "Dude, map making's easy. I can make a map like so easy." I'm like, "You're right, it is easy, but you probably don't know how to make a competitive map." And by competitive, I mean you need to go down to the very smallest square on a grid. You need to make sure that a spawning pool can block off the back way into your mineral line. You need to make sure that this ramp is this wide. You need to make sure that this ramp is this wide. You need to make sure that this many force fields can choke this off. You need to make sure you can wall off this whole area as a Protoss and as a Terran. You need to make sure that the range of a tank does not reach this certain point. Like, there's just so many different things you have to pay attention to. Or take Overlord scouting. You need to make sure that if an Overlord sits here as a scout, you need to make sure that nothing else can hit it. there's just so many different things you have to pay attention to. It's not like you just lay down a base, throw your mineral line in, and be like, all right, that's my map. It just doesn't work that way. And so we spend a lot of time on it, and that's why we spend, 30, 40, 50 hours making maps. So definitely the gameplay.
So what's something you would recommend people trying to get into map making? What's something you would tell them as an advice?
Oh boy. Well, that's a little hard because like the map editor is a little more complicated than it should be for newer people. If I had to give one piece of advice, don't worry about the art of the map. Just worry about your base layout. Trust me. Worry about where you put your watchtowers. Worry about how your main, natural, and third is set up. And believe me, if you can have a good main, natural, and third, your map is definitely playable. I would highly focus on those 3 bases first, and then start putting in your 4th, 5th, and 6th. And also try and experiment with the high ground a little bit. Don't make it all flat like Shattered Temple. Put some high ground in the center. Try 1 watchtower in the center. If you don't like that, try 2. Put 1 off on each side and things like that. You just want to get down the basics of the layout. Don't, a lot of people, they'll try and create a layout and then they'll try and rush. They'll rush it and then they'll go right into the aesthetics of a map, and then they'll, take a texture and they'll make like the entire level of terrain like 1 texture, and they'll be like, all right, I'm done. It's like, oh, like, please just gouge me right now. Don't worry about textures or anything like that. Just focus on the layout. If you can get a good layout, then textures and aesthetics will come with time and practice.
Another question from the chat that's come up quite a lot now is talking about rotational symmetry. Before I jump into the question, maybe you want to explain rotational symmetry really quickly for the viewers who don't know what it means.
Rotational symmetry goes back to what I was saying earlier. It comes down to proportions and how you set up your main and natural. When it comes to rotational symmetry, your main and natural are the 2 biggest things that you have to pay attention to. If you look at Tolerine Altar, your mains are in your corner, but then your natural's out more toward the center of the map, which means the rush distance from your opponent's natural to your natural is going to be shorter. Whereas if you look at Antigua Shipyard, the mains are really close, but the naturals are back in the corner, which means it's longer. So it really comes down to where you put your main and your natural, and also how big the map is. Tolerine Altar is pretty big. I believe it's like 170 by 170 or something like that. Whereas Antigua Shipyard, that's like 136, 140. Now, if Antigua Shipyard was as big as Tolerine Altar with the exact same layout, it would probably be a lot better. So it really just comes down to it, where you put your main and your natural, and also how big the map is. So I would say it's definitely in between. It's something that you have to pay attention to. So that's really what it boils down to. It's not bad. It's just that when people do rotational symmetry maps, they make the map a little bit smaller than it probably should be. And that's something that we still have to explore.
Yeah, that's pretty much answering the question that was the follow-up to that. Jasper asked, what's your opinion on rotational symmetry? Is it good, bad, or somewhere in between?
Yeah.
No. And Folon from Team Liquid asked, as a follow-up, why is there so much rotational symmetry in the first place?
Why is there so much rotational in the first place?
Yeah, rotational symmetry.
I think it's because it's just really easy to do. It kind of creates that wacky design look, and to be perfectly honest, I don't really know. I haven't really noticed that. I just, when one person does one thing, you just follow along with it, and you learn more about the metagame and what's good and what's bad, and you just start, feeling a little more limited than that. Like, well, no, I can't do this anymore because that's gonna break this, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
there really isn't a lot you can really say about that. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Maybe let's talk a little bit about your background with map making, and in general, maybe. What did you do before map making in StarCraft 2? Did you have any artistic background? You know, did you do map making in any other games? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I grew up in a creative family. My dad and my brother, they are graphic designers, and you know, they used to draw a lot. And you know, a few people in my family are also teachers. So it's you know, I used to draw a lot growing up. Me and my brother, we would draw on our tablets and everything like that, and we would draw on napkins at restaurants and things like that. So we had a really artistic mind. You know, I would take drawing classes at school and things like that. You know, it was just really, I don't know, I wanted to be a professional drawer at one point, and I just lost interest. And, you know, during that time I was going through, you know, Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, StarCraft Original, Brood War, Diablo 1. I was doing other games like Battlefield, Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, and just what really, it just was in my head. It stuck out at me, the maps. You know, in those FPS games like Battlefield or Call of Duty, I loved screenshotting the maps and then just drawing tactics all over it. For like, oh well, when we go in this scrimmage, we're gonna start here, we're gonna go there, we're gonna go there, and you know, and then we're gonna split up. I like doing that. And then when I got into Blizzard games, the maps were so much fun. There was just something about it that just grabbed my attention. And my first ever map that I actually ever created was in Warcraft 2, and it was the best map ever. It was a green field with 200 supply army on one side, 200 supply army on the other, and then clash. Oh, those were the days. So yeah, that was my map making history, and you know, a lot of people don't even know who I was back in Brood War and everything like that. I did make maps there, but I just wasn't out in the public. I just made it to myself. StarCraft 2 is when I really kind of took that step out in the public. So, oh, 1 second, I gotta let my dog out.
All right. So guys, we're gonna wrap up the show in about 10 minutes. So if you have any more questions, post them now. I will not be able to pick all of them up, but if you post questions now, we should be able to answer at least a few of them. Okay, you're back. Perfect. You said you did a bit of mapping in Brood War. Do you have a favorite Brood War map? Maybe a map that you want to be transferred to StarCraft 2?
God, I can't even remember half the names.
Yeah, same here actually.
My Brood War CD broke at some point, and then I stopped playing for like 4 or 5 years. So, to be honest, I couldn't tell you. I just, because you know, online too at that time was so hidden. It wasn't like as popular or public as it is right now. You know, you didn't have Skype. You didn't really have streams and things like that. So it was a little hard to follow people at that time. The only way you could follow them was like through, you know, like instead of streaming back then, you would take screenshots and then you would, you know, say under it like, oh, this is what he did next and things like that. It was really hard to follow the pro scene in Brood War, at least for me, because I was a little bit younger. So I couldn't tell you what maps were really good and what were bad. I don't think I was old enough, to be honest, to really understand that maps were really good for Brood War, so I I can't really tell you. I wish I could.
Yeah. All right. Folan asks, I mean, we touched upon this a little bit earlier, but he asks, how much does the tile set matter when making a map?
Tile set's pretty unique. It's what makes your map creative. It makes it colorful and things like that. When I made Ohana, you know, a lot of people were like, "Oh wow, I'm really glad that we have this bright and sunny map. You know, I'm tired of playing on a space map or an asteroid." or some dark map. Ohana really changes that. So yeah, I mean the tile set does matter. It's what creates the life in your map. You walk outside and you see all the colors, like that's real life tile set right there. Like you just need it. So yeah, I mean it is important, but you also need to have clarity in these textures. You can't just cover the ground in a bunch of rocks and blotchy grass patches everywhere, because think about burrowed units. If they're burrowing, you may not be able to see them as clearly. Whereas if it's a nice, solid, clean texture, you'll be able to see them. So you have to really pick what textures you want. And so yeah, it's important. So hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, as you might see in the chat, another question is, I know you're refining Kaidaria at the moment. Is there a different or another map you are working on right now? And can you give us an exclusive SC2 News sneak peek?
Okay, I'm not working on another map right now, sorry. I just recently finished Kaidaria, and I am taking a little bit of a break from working on that. Making a map takes a long time. Just coming up with a design, like if you come up with a really nice design, chances are there's already another map out there that looks exactly like it. So it takes a while, but so no, I probably won't have a new design for at least another month. Hate to break it to you. So don't know what to tell you there.
Alrighty, and maybe in general, what do you think your future is in map making? It seems like it does require a lot of effort and a lot of time and dedication. Do you see yourself continuing for a long time, or what's your future in map making?
Oh boy, I didn't think it'd have to come to this question, but I have been thinking about quitting map making as of recently. I've been talking to my teammates and everything like that, so I'm thinking about quitting sometime around Heart of the Swarm. Just, one of those days, or those times when you just kind of need to move on and you grow up a little bit and, life is catching you and all that stuff. So, a couple guys that I know, they're kind of losing interest in map making, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. One of the reasons why map makers are losing interest is because we are extremely limited to how we create maps. We would love to be creative, but if Blizzard has to take out rivers, then we can never make a river again. So, okay, that's one thing that we can't ever do again. So, and it just kind of boils down, we can't overload the map on textures or doodads because that's going to cause FPS issues. So, okay, we have to go really light on them now. So it just kind of boils down to a point where it's we have to use this kind of a base layout. We can't use too many of, we can't use this, we can't go past this amount of doodads and things like that. So, I think a lot of us are just waiting for Heart of the Swarm when we get new map features and new map textures and things like that. So, I'll probably make a map or two in Heart of the Swarm, but that'll probably be it. So, I think the future of map making itself, though, is definitely going to be more popular than Brood War in a matter of years. Probably by the time Legacy of the Void comes out. So, I think map making definitely has a bright future. If any of you out there are interested in doing it, get started on it right away.
All right. I really hope that that you stick with map making, and maybe even with Heart of the Swarm, it might be a new editor coming out with that, so there might be new possibilities. So I really hope you stick with that, and I wish you all the best for the future. And I think we all hope that you will stay with us as a map maker and keep contributing to the community in the way you have. Is there anything you want to say to the community? Any shout outs?
Well, I do have one particular shout out. It is Memorial Day, and I'm very biased toward America. So I want to give a shout out to all the veterans out there, men and women who've served from the Revolutionary War to the war in Iraq. A salute to you guys. Thank you for serving our country. And also a shout out to ESV, TPW, and Team Crux. You know, honestly, guys, we care about the community. You know, we love you guys. We want to keep the game fresh. We want to give players a new scene to play in. You know, we're tired of watching you play on a dark map. We're gonna give you a bright map. You know, we like seeing that. We like the diversity in the way maps look. You know, shout out to them. You know, get to know us, ask us questions. We're around a lot more than you guys think. We really do care about map balance. Believe me. You know, I know a lot of you guys dislike Blizzard and their maps. We do too. And we're striving to, believe me, we're striving to, you know, keep the game fresh and really fun for you guys. And we're trying to cater to what everyone wants in a map. So it's just very difficult to get those maps exposed. So if you guys out there really like community maps like Daybreak, Metropolis, Ohana, Dual Site, all those other maps, Cloud Kingdom, Core Hall Compound, support us, make threads, trying to promote us, ask tournaments, you know, tweet, you know, try and get our maps out there. We could really appreciate it, and we could really use the help. So basically just a shout out to all you guys who've just been my supporters and ESV fans, and you know, everyone who's been sticking with map making. And I know it's not the funnest thing to watch on stream when I stream it, but you know, it's something that we love doing, and it's something that we hope to put good use in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I know your Twitter is at ESV IronManSC. Guys, make sure to follow him. I'll put it in the chat in a moment as well. Maybe tell us a little bit, tell us about your stream link as well, so people who are interested can watch you and support you.
Well, okay, when a Korean Weekly is on or something like that, like you'll see ESV at the top of the featured list, but when it's not, you will see ESV TV in the other section on the stream list. And if you click on that and you see a map being worked on, it's probably me. So I usually stream if I have a map that I'm working on, and if ESV is not doing those rebroadcasts, which kind of bothered me because I wanted to stream K-Daria for a long time, and I just couldn't do it because of the rebroadcast. So if you guys happen to see it, just, you know, join in and see what I'm working on, but it won't happen for a little while still, maybe about a month. So that's basically what it is. I just stream maps and let you guys in on, hey, you know, this is how an ESV map maker makes maps, you know.
All right, that's awesome. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. If you have any feedback, if you liked what you saw, definitely tell Iron Man about it. Tell him on Twitter and give me feedback on Team Liquid. That just go to the search bar, the one feature that a lot of people unfortunately don't use. Go there, search in the spotlight, and you'll find the thread, and just give me feedback about this. And thanks for watching again. The guest for next week will be yeah.
I do have one thing.
Okay.
I want to let you guys know. We listen to balance concerns for maps. Trust me. You might think that Blizzard doesn't listen, but we do. You know, just because we don't respond right away doesn't mean we haven't read it. We talk about it, and we analyze it, and we try and see, you know, if it's a good change or not. So if you guys have a balanced suggestion for any map that we work on, let us know. We will take it into account. I promise you that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can comment on that a little bit. I saw it in the map section on Team Liquid as well. For example, I mean, Diamond is another map maker now, but you know, he suggested for K-Daria, I think he suggested adding destructible rocks at a certain spot, and you responded to that. I think you put them in now, and he was really proud about that. So if you have any suggestions, definitely go there, go to these map threads, and you know, tell the map makers. And also, I saw you, for example, commenting on a map created by someone who is new to map making, and you told him a lot about what's important, as you said earlier, you know, the mineral line positioning, and the, you know, how wide a ramp has to be, all this sort of stuff. So the interaction is there. Make use of it, guys. And as I said earlier, if you have any questions, any feedback, search in the spotlight on Team Liquid. And thank you once again, IronManSC, for being on the show. It was a pleasure.
You are welcome. It was a pleasure being here.